The White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting turned out to be so much funnier in retrospect than I initially realized. And to be clear, I'm not saying that violence is funny. I would never say that. I'm saying that the situation and subsequent reactions were humorous in a Twilight Zone sort of way where everyone seemingly snapped and collectively lost their minds all at the same time. And I can't help but laugh at that because it almost feels like we've entered a new timeline because of that incident. But before we talk about the discourse about that particular shooting, let's go back to the incident itself, because I still can't believe that Caroline Leavitt said this before the event took place.
There will be some shots fired tonight in the room.
Turns out she wasn't wrong, and people were joking about that clip, asking, well, what did she know? But then this moment happened on Fox News, which led to people really asking, what did she know?
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time.
I'm sure that's exactly what happened. But that fueled more speculation about whether or not the incident was staged or a false flag, which isn't too far outside of the realm of possibility, given how Russia reportedly told Viktor Orban to stage an assassination attempt before his election to improve his failing approval ratings. And since Trump literally lies about everything already, it's not beneath him to do something like this to improve his own approval ratings. Now, I personally don't think that this is the case or need more evidence to confirm that that is indeed the case, but I do find it funny that most people think that it was staged. And Trump's team isn't helping with that perception. As this person points out on Twitter, look at these people. They're all just smirking. These are not "I just survived a mass shooting" smirks. These smirks tell a completely different story. Perhaps a story of an epic prank they all just pulled off. But to be fair, nobody who was there really seemed to care, with the exception of Wolf Blitzer. He seemed to be really shaken up by the event. But everybody else didn't really seem to care. I say this because right-wingers were angrily tweeting about how members of the press kept taking entire bottles of champagne. But I, for one, think that that's a G move, and I would probably do the same thing myself because it's right there. It was already paid for. Why not? But side note, how did we get so many details wrong about this story when it was a room full of members of the press? I mean, CNN's Caitlin Collins reported that the shooter was confirmed dead, and we all thought that he was dead when he was, in fact, not shot dead. And Caitlin was there. Like, did she not think maybe I should just peek around the corner to see if there's a body before I report this? I guess not. So even with the room full of journalists, they can't get the most basic details right. But that aside, I have to talk about other things that are just downright bizarre and unexplainable about this event. So as you can see here, they rushed out JD Vance after they heard shots fired, and then only after they've made sure that the vice president was safe, that is when they came back for Donald Trump. And then his geriatric ass fell down, and remember this moment because we're going to come back to it. But while this is all happening, Stephen Miller was pictured here escorting his pregnant wife out, hand on her titty for some reason. And then over the top right corner here, you can see that there's a man in a tuxedo just watching from the sidelines, which led people to wonder if Secret Service let Donald Trump watch the chaos unfold after they escorted him to behind the curtain because, why wouldn't they if they didn't care about him in the first place? Why wouldn't they just let him watch? But if you look at this video shared by Twitter user HustleBitch, they've adjusted the contrast and they zoomed in. And when you get a closer look, you can kind of see that there's a glow from a bald man's head, even though it does look like Trump initially. And you can see that before it cuts to the HustleBitch logo. So thank you, HustleBitch. So it's unclear, though, who that is, but it doesn't appear to be Trump, in my estimation, although in an interview with 60 Minutes, he explicitly said that he wanted to watch. So there's that as well. He kind of addressed the JD Vance leaving before him situation and his fall, but he just wanted to make sure that nobody thought that he actually fell. Didn't really care about Secret Service prioritizing JD Vance over him. Just don't think he fell, please.
You see the security moving quickly, right, within seconds, grabbing the vice president by his coat, lifting him up, bringing him out, then the counter assault comes in, took 10 seconds for them to flank you, Mr. President, and then 20 seconds to get you out. It looked chaotic. At one point, you were down. What was happening?
Well, what happened is it was a little bit me. I wanted to see what was happening, and I wasn't making it that easy for him. I wanted to see what was going on. We were asked to go down by the agents as I was walking. In other words,
they wanted you almost to crawl
I was
out.
standing up, pretty much.
Sure. Now, I'm going to share this photograph from that interview because people are asking if the president's booty is thick enough to sit a cup on it. And the answer is no, because that would be a diaper, my friends. Glad I could clear up the confusion about something in this video. But the reporter points out that they got the VP out first, and then it took 10 seconds to find the president, as if they didn't know where he was. And then it took 20 seconds for them to get him out entirely. But rather than saying, yeah, Secret Service maybe should have prioritized me over JD Vance, Trump says that he made it, I can't believe he said this, he made it more difficult for them because he wanted to watch, which just screams dementia patient that should be in a long-term care facility. And he also wanted to make it clear that he definitely did not fall down. Please don't report that he fell down, because unlike other old men, he would never fall down. It's protocol for security to tell you to get down and then immediately get right back up. That's what they do all the time. If you watch, these action movies, like, get down, Mr. President. Okay, get up immediately. Yeah. Now, when you look at it from this angle, you can see that he clearly falls down and they immediately rush to help him. But according to him, he didn't fall down. And I've got to say, this is why nobody believes anything you say, bitch. This is why nobody believes anything you say, because if you are lying about things we can see with our own two eyes, you're gonna be untrustworthy. So this is why also people are thinking, all right, this has got to be staged, because he won't give us an inch of reality, not even a taste of reality. Everything that we see has to be debated somehow. What I do want to come back to in this interview is a moment where Trump was so enraged that he probably filled up his adult diaper with shit. So stick a pin in that. We'll be back to that. But I want to paint a broader picture of the evening as a whole before we come back to that moment in the interview, because while that commotion was taking place at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, actor Ben Stiller tweeted, "Got it done." Now, at that point, we already knew that the president was safe, so it was obvious he wasn't vague posting about the assassination attempt, especially since we knew that the shooter did not, in fact, get it done. He was reacting to a basketball game in actuality, but Nancy Mace saw that tweet and, she was like, "Got what done?" And I just can't help but laugh at that, because if he was rooting for the shooter, why would he tweet that after the shooter failed? I mean, what the fuck is wrong with these people? And she clearly didn't know herself, hence why she asked the question. But she asked that, looked like a fool, and then decided to leave that tweet up. So great job, Nancy Mace. But while all of this is happening, Nancy Mace is tweeting that, Trump is falling down, something so much more interesting was taking place in the same city. Self-proclaimed journalist and Jeffrey Epstein defender Michael Tracey was crashing out and threatening to fight Jim Acosta, formerly of CNN, at a hotel after they both got into a dispute at the Substack party, which I didn't know was a thing. Maybe that's the platform's alternative to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And we got the first whiff of fuckery at 7:39 p.m. when Tim Rice of the Daily Wire tweeted, "Spotted a prominent leftist writer being escorted out of the Substack party, hurling invective at staffers. Police were almost involved." Now, nobody thought that he was referring to Michael Tracey at first, because he's neither prominent nor a leftist nor a writer. But apparently that is indeed who this individual was referencing. Minutes later, Nathan Brand confirmed, not sure what to do with this information. But yeah, Michael Tracey started screaming at Julie K. Brown about Epstein at the Substack party. Jim Acosta got involved, threatening to fight Tracey outside. But to give you some additional context, earlier that day, Tara Palmieri actually spotted Michael Tracey at a memorial event for Virginia Giuffre, size tag on his pants and all, and security was trying to remove him, presumably because he's gone out of his way to slander this poor woman who is now deceased. So I don't know if Julie K. Brown confronted him at the Substack party because of that, or gave him a side eye because she's seen him defend Jeffrey Epstein and slander his victims. I don't know how this started. Either way, Jim Acosta claims that he had to step in because Michael Tracey was bullying Julie K. Brown, as he put it, and not letting her walk away during some sort of confrontation, which is extremely believable and also creepy. And that is when the fight between the two men almost reportedly broke out. So I'm not entirely sure about the lead up to this incident, but the details don't really matter because Michael Tracey's reaction is all that I care about, and that's what I want to talk about. So let's get to that. He tweeted out, Jim Acosta threatened to fight me tonight at the Substack party, to which Jim Acosta responded, that's because you are trash. Michael Tracey clapped back, and he said, let's settle it how you threatened, Jim. Come on, tough guy. I'm waiting, or tell me where else to meet you. He then shares a previous tweet that he wrote to Acosta where he says, still have no idea whatever went on with Trump tonight. Just know Jim Acosta threw a fucking hissy fit. Pussy, Jim, meet me in front of the Hampton Inn. he actually put his address. And then he followed up saying, Jim, I'm literally waiting for you right now, you piece of shit. And he shared an image of the hotel confirming that he was indeed there and waiting to fight Jim Acosta. But I'm getting too far ahead of myself because before Jim Acosta responded, Tracey put out some additional tweets writing, Jim screamed at me. Let's step outside. I'm so sorry. I have to collect myself. And I replied, okay, Jim, let's go. Then he had the security do his dirty work for him instead. Pussy. Michael Tracey added, and yes, he ultimately wanted to fight me over Epstein shit. I would have fought him if security didn't intervene. Now, this isn't even my favorite part of the story because my favorite part of the story is... I'm gonna fucking cry. My favorite part of the story is when Michael Tracey, and I'm so serious about this, threatened to fight Olivia Giuliana. Oh my God, you can't understand me. Let me say that again. Michael Tracey threatened to fight Olivia Giuliana. So he responded to a tweet Olivia Giuliana made to Julie K. Brown, where she said, so glad you're okay, and so sorry you had to deal with that. And he responded to Olivia Giuliana saying, kiss my ass. Now she responded saying, hey, since you like to pick on women so much, why don't you pick on me next time? See how well that ends up. And then he wrote back saying, okay, let's do it. You want to meet up somewhere tonight? So, I'm so sorry. He is threatening to fight Jim Acosta and Olivia Giuliana. And it's so funny to me, not just because he's threatening to fight them. I'm literally crying. It's funny because I know that both Jim Acosta and Olivia Giuliana would fuck him up. And so he's doing this. It conjures an image of a chihuahua, all bark, no bite. And listen, Michael, if you're watching this, I would volunteer to fight you myself as well, but that would require me to make physical contact with you, which is something that I'm not willing to do as a germaphobe. So just pretend that I said that I would fight you so you can react, because that's what I find the most entertaining. Michael Tracey, self-proclaimed journalist, starting to fight everybody who either defends people who don't like him or is criticizing him for his Epstein coverage. And again, he's not paid. He's been confronted about this. He's just doing it for the love of the game, as Francesca Fiorentini puts it. But keep in mind that this shit was taking place at the same time the assassination attempt was taking place at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. So I don't know if there was a full moon or some shit was going on, but this lends credence to my working theory about a timeline shift possibly taking place that night. But before we move on to the response, the Trumps are still dwelling on something that happened the day before the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
And that really, really, really pissed him off. Now, between a comedian making a joke about you marrying an old guy who's dying and an assassin who's trying to murder your husband, which would you personally be more mad about? See, I personally wouldn't care about the joke, but Melania, however, just wants to make sure that we do something about this Jimmy Kimmel situation. She tweeted, Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening to spread hate. Just turn off your TV then. A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running cover to protect him. Enough is enough. It is time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? Now, Trump also chimed in, tweeting, "Wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, as attested to by his terrible television ratings, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady Melania and our son, Barron, like they were actually in his studio, listening to him speak, which they weren't, and never would be. He then stated, our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have the glow like an expected widow. A day later, a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, loaded up with a shotgun, handgun, and many knives. He was there for a very obvious and sinister reason." And there's more, but you get the point. Now, just in case it wasn't obvious to Trump, I think that Jimmy Kimmel was joking about the fact that Trump is old and going to die soon, and that Melania married him for his money, and she's excited about that. Not that an assassin would come to the White House Correspondents' Dinner and try to take him out. So, yeah, very normal to care about a joke more than the potential would-be assassin. Just their priorities are surely in order, right? But Trump genuinely seems to be unbothered by this, and even though many people, myself included, expected him to immediately exploit the incident for political purposes, he instead is using it as a justification to get his ballroom. That genuinely seems to be his main takeaway from the third assassination attempt, and it immediately became the main talking point of the MAGA hive mind, who tweeted in unison like NPCs about why the shooting attempt is why we need to build the ballroom, and that includes John Fetterman, who also tweeted, "Drop the TDS and build the White House ballroom for events exactly like these." So they're clearly not letting this opportunity go to waste, of course. And Ashley St. Clair, who has since turned on MAGA after having a baby with Elon Musk, she shared some insight into how this type of coordination takes place.
So last week, I told you guys that all of MAGA is paid and they coordinate their messaging in lockstep via group chats. And what do you know? All of these people came to the conclusion that after they saw what happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, their first thought was all independently, Trump needs his ballroom. The statistical likelihood of this happening in a vacuum, if we are to stipulate that these people are not coordinated, the statistical likelihood of this happening, that they all came to the same conclusion, not probable, okay? I think it's also important to note that one of the main group chats in which they coordinate this messaging is literally called Fight, Fight, Fight after the attempt on Trump's life in Butler. Okay, and this has the official Trump War Room, members of the administration, including James Blair, and all your favorite MAGA influencers.
Least surprising expose ever. But it's just weird that that's their focus, right? Now, to go back to that interview that Trump did on 60 Minutes, I promised we'd get back to that. He was fucking fuming with rage because the interviewer dared to ask him about the shooter's manifesto, where the shooter called him a pedophile, rapist, and traitor. And he decided to shoot the messenger, for lack of a better word. And you're going to see that the interviewer is genuinely shocked by that reaction, which I also find quite hilarious.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President. He appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, "Administration officials, they are targets." And he also wrote this, "I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes." What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and
these are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead. Let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote in
You're
the
disgraceful.
The only thing funnier to me than his reaction is her reaction to his reaction, because she was like, oh, you think he was referring to you? Who the fuck else would the shooter be referring to in the manifesto? Like, really? Are you that shocked by that? It is funny because now some conservatives are saying that you're not allowed to call him those things because it inspired the attack. But I mean, it doesn't work that way. Trump was found liable for rape in civil court. He's also implicated in the Epstein files thousands, if not 1 million times, and accused of molesting a 13-year-old girl, and he tried to overthrow the U.S. government. So it's not an incitement of violence to objectively describe the president as the things that he is. Our political climate is violent and volatile because of the president. And whenever something like this happens, which pisses me off, everyone else is expected to be the grown-ups, but Donald Trump doesn't have to be. Like, Dana Bash was on CNN blaming Democrats for their rhetoric, hilariously so, and the Wall Street Journal quickly published this puff piece glazing Donald Trump for being presidential in the immediate aftermath of the incident. And even Trump critics like Bruce Springsteen, who wrote a song criticizing Trump in the aftermath of Renee Good and Alex Petty's murders, began a concert with a prayer of thanks for Trump's safety, which is a little bit melodramatic, Bruce, but it goes to show you that the onus is always on everyone else to be mature and responsible, even though Donald Trump is never gonna be expected to behave that way, because we all are gonna expect him to act like a fucking pan-shitting baby, and we all have to be the grown-ups in the room. But the interviewer, she later asked Trump about the shooter's remarks about security being lax and Secret Service being incompetent in the shooter's opinion. And Trump's response was that, well, actually, he's incompetent since he got caught. And that was maybe the only instance where he actually showed any contempt whatsoever for the man who literally tried to fucking kill him, which is weird because if Trump gets outraged over jokes, you would think he'd be exponentially more outraged at a would-be assassin, but he genuinely seems unbothered by it, which is all the more reason why people think that this entire debacle was a false flag. And that brings us to the final reactions that seem to confirm my theory about this being a timeline-shifting event. And for the record, I don't mean that literally. Like, I don't think the timeline actually shifted. I don't think timelines exist. I'm being facetious. But it's important that I spell that out because we're reaching Alex Jones levels of conspiracy theories, and people are really cooking. So I just want to make sure that I am trying to remain in reality, even though reality is getting increasingly bizarre. Now, when I say Alex Jones level conspiracy theories, we're talking about people raising the specter of time travel, literally. So the first thing people noticed was that searches for the shooter's name spiked in Israel before the shooting took place, which could mean two things, of course. One, that Israel did it, and Mossad agents were searching Google to see if the headlines dropped to confirm that he went through with it. Or two, that Israel is like 10 hours ahead of us in time, and they were actually searching for the shooter's name at the same time that the rest of us were searching for the shooter's name. But that's just one theory. The next theory is truly wild, and they were cooking with this one. So people started to notice that a random account on Twitter made a tweet 3 years ago with the shooter's name, Cole Allen, and that was the only thing they ever wrote. But the account seemingly wasn't random because on the shooter's LinkedIn, he says that he interned for NASA in 2014, which is the same year that NASA happened to publish a paper from an author named Henry Martinez, the name of the Twitter account that made a single tweet with the shooter's name in 2023. But the coincidences don't stop there because the profile picture for Henry Martinez happens to be a picture of Pepe the Frog in a tuxedo with the wine glass, which is the exact same outfit Trump happened to be wearing and was, of course, sipping on champagne. But there's even more because Henry Martinez's background image for his Twitter profile, which appears to be abstract, might not actually be abstract after all. In fact, people discovered that it may actually have a hidden image within it of the first Trump assassination attempt. And when you superimpose the image over the abstract image, you can see that some of it does indeed line up. And I guess the conclusion is that the shooter was a time traveler who worked with the NASA scientists who had a paper published in 2014 to go back in time to take out Donald Trump, although they didn't get it done, as Ben Stiller would say. So he's now stuck in the past and being used as a justification for Trump's future ballroom. And really, they wanted to stop the ballroom from getting constructed. I would assume that's why they came back in time. But that's one explanation. Another explanation is that that wasn't a hidden image after all. Because, I mean, I could superimpose my nuts on that same image and you wouldn't be able to unsee it because our brains are wired to see patterns. It's why people think that dirty clothes they throw on the floor in their bedroom are ghosts of their loved ones, like in the middle of the night in the dark, because our brains are always scanning for patterns in everything. And with regard to Henry Martinez, that account, I would venture to say that that isn't the NASA scientist who had a paper published in 2014. Because I don't know many rocket scientists who would have a picture of fucking Pepe the Frog in their bio. And the tweet is probably coincidental, or someone on Twitter's back end is fucking with everybody, because time travel doesn't exist. And if it did exist, I doubt the people smart enough to invent time travel would be using Twitter as their primary form of communication. But you see, this kind of thing happens when government and institutions just lose trust with the people. People jump to wild-ass conclusions to rationalize bizarre things that defy explanation. But even though, there's still a lot of unknown and unexplainable things about that event, one thing that we do know for sure is that it produced a lot of unintentionally hilarious moments. And I, for one, think that it speaks to why we need to let Trump have that ballroom and why we need to make sure that Michael Tracey gets an invite to every ballroom event in the future for entertainment purposes. So, yeah, if you couldn't tell, I am delirious because I don't feel very good. I'm getting over a cold. But I found all of this hilarious, and I don't know if it's just me, but let me know in the comments because shit's kind of crazy, like even crazier than normal. So I don't know what to say. Have a nice day.
The Humanist Report is fake news. Mike only cares about Crazy Bernie and his wacky socialist ideas. Sad, very sad. I'm unsubscribing.